Blog Talk Radio.
Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot. Oh my! It's just another night for Supernatural Girlz. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Psychic medium Helene Olsen and paranormal researcher Patricia Baker. Here are Supernatural Girlz.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girlz. I am your host, Patricia Baker, and I am here with my guest co-host and famous numerologist, Patricia Kirkman. Hi, Patricia. How are you tonight?
I am doing absolutely fabulous, Patricia. Sounds like an echo when we go, Patricia, Patricia.
I know, and it's not an echo. There's just two of us. So
that's right.
Gosh, well, we all made it through Thanksgiving, and I'm sure we're still feeling the effects of that big meal. So,
for sure.
It's time to go on a fast.
I feel rather
cleansing.
I put a skirt on today. I haven't put on in ages, and my God, I can't breathe, and I couldn't zip it all the way up. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't imagine what it's going to be like after Christmas.
I know it. We're going to have to sign ourselves into a weight loss spa or something. I think that's on the agenda. So
I'm afraid you're right.
I know. Well, I wanted to let everybody know that Helene Olsen is taking a vacation, lucky lady, for December. She's got so much to do with her family and all, and so it's going to be you and me, Patricia. And Becky Andreasen promised that she's going to join us as well. So we're going to have a very exciting time, the three of us, with our upcoming guests, and we will have 3 more shows, including this one, till the end of the year. We're going to take 2 weeks off at the end because we're going to be running into Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. So we'll be broadcasting repeats of past shows for the last 2 weeks of the year. But for now, we have wonderful guests, live guests for this week, next week, and the week after. So I'm very excited about the guests we have on tonight. My gosh, Patricia, this is going to be wild. This is Gloria Amendola is how you pronounce it, I believe, and she's an intuitive and a channel for Mary Magdalene, who is such a mysterious figure.
Amazing. I found that book so fascinating, I could not put it down.
I know. She has 2 great books. One is called Mary Magdalene, Revelations from a First Century Avatar, Volume 1, and then the same title, but Volume 2. And it just really makes you think about the stories we have been told about the Bible and Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and she's here to set us straight tonight on what the true story is, which I'm so excited to hear. So, and you're going to talk to us about the numbers of the Mary Magdalene name, so do tell. What did you find?
Well, firstly, Mary is a communicator, but she's also very into things being done correctly. She's very intuitive, but she knows how to, I hate to put it this way, Mary Magdalene, but it's also she was a bit of a manipulator. She was able to make things happen when other people couldn't allow it to take place. And she's very strong-willed. But going by the name Mary Magdalene, she is a communicator to the nth degree. And her work always had to be communication. So whatever she did, however she put it out there, it was creatively done, and she caught the ear of whomever she was speaking. It was very interesting to see how this came about, because she wasn't the shrinking violet that many thought that she should have been at the time, but she made her mark, and she was accepted, which was the most important part, very much accepted for what she had to say.
Which must have been very unique in that day and age.
Oh, heavens, yes. Women weren't offered much to say, were they?
No. And, again, look at how she's portrayed today, which I always found disturbing. I mean, always portrayed as less than. And so I'm so glad that Gloria's with us tonight to tell us what the real story is here. And Patricia, you're also going to tell us about tomorrow, which is a 4-day. What can we expect for tomorrow?
Well, it's a 4-calendar day, but it is a universal 5. It's all about major changes. And the changes have a luck factor to it. And it's going to be kind of like a bouncing, echoing. Things are going to be coming back and forth. And the luck factor that goes with it, it's going to give people opportunity to make changes, to make better choices, because the month itself is all about new beginnings. So I find it very fascinating how we are going to be looking at things, because the new beginnings and taking command and taking charge in a day that's going to allow us to make change and have it go well instead of go negatively.
Sounds like a positive energy is coming in then for tomorrow.
Very much so, very much so. And, of course, Sagittarius is the ruling astrological sign, and that in itself has a luck factor to it. Sagittarius is very optimistic and very expansive, so there's going to be a lot coming from that. So we've got a lot of good things going into the kitty right now for us to build on.
That's great news, because I know we've had some trying days, and you have warned us about what was coming every show, and now this sounds very optimistic. So I'm so happy to hear good news. Yay!
Oh, yes. It's about time. I think we could use it.
We can certainly use that, yes.
Well, I was going to say the one thing about the Sagittarius this month, it's encouraging freedom, and especially freedom of speech.
Wow.
That's a plus.
Now,
that is
I also want
plus.
to bring up, last month you were talking about secrets being revealed, and certainly you were right. And look at all the things coming out about that, about Bill Cosby. Suddenly, women are coming out of the woodwork saying that they were harmed by this man. And it's, and again, you were saying secrets are not going to be able to be kept anymore. They're going to come right out, be right in our face. These things are going to be revealed, and certainly this is a big thing. It's
sad because this was a man that had the most to gain, not only for his race, but for manhood, fatherhood, and all these things, and to have absolutely destroyed it. Absolutely destroyed it. I hope there'll be someone that will step into his space and that makes what he tried to do or started to do what it was truly to be, and not end up
more
being
real,
garbage.
With true integrity instead of being a facade. So absolutely. I mean, but again, I just wanted to bring that out because you did talk about that last month. You said this was just look for these secrets coming out of the woodwork and being revealed, and that's certainly what has been happening. So.
There's going to be a few more that's going to hit the airways before this year is over, I'm afraid.
Oh, my.
And that's sad. How Bill Cosby's wife could stand by him, God only knows, but I give her credit for that.
I don't know if we should give credit or hang our heads. I don't know. That's a tough one, but it's certainly been an interesting ride on the train of secrecy. Those secrets are not going to stay hidden, not in this day and age. So it's
that's for
interesting.
Sure. Big Brother's
to see
watching
this.
everywhere. You just never know when the door's going to open.
That's right. It's going to be flung open.
Like a race car coming right straight through the entryway.
Oh, goodness me. Well, and I also want to mention a couple of other things. Please, everybody, make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter, The Fringe Files, so that you can keep in touch with us. Please sign up to win a book. We are constantly giving books away, and we have a sign-up form now on our website, which is supernaturalgirls.com. So if you want to be in the running for a free book, then please make sure you sign up on that website. And we now have new items in the store. We have mugs and carry-all bags and things like that with our logo on it. And please consider buying some of these for the holidays, for gifts or birthdays, for whatever, because it helps to keep the show running. So we appreciate your support that way.
Fabulous.
And I also want
great stocking stuffers too.
They are, yeah. And I also want to bring up that, in fact, the book, the property tax book that is advertised on our show every week, if you haven't bought it, please consider buying it, because your property tax bill is going to be coming out in January. They are going to be putting value on your home and property, real or imagined, and you're going to have to pay the bill. So get prepared and read attorney Patricia Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Now, I helped Patricia Quintilian with the book, and we did a lot of research together, and the things we found would just curl your hair, Patricia. I'm telling you now. We found people being taxed on buildings that they didn't have on their property. We found, people being taxed on screened-in porches they didn't have. It's really amazing what goes on, because property taxes, you mentioned that, and people's eyes glaze over. They just don't even know what to think about it. They think that these assessors are highly trained, they're going to be fair. You guys got to get real. You got to get this book. You got to understand how to read your property record card, know what you're being taxed on. I'll bet all of you out there, I bet there's not one person in our audience right now that has looked at their property record card and knows what's on it and what they're being taxed on. So consider my warning. I love you all, and I want you to pay whatever your fair share of taxes is, but I don't want you to pay what you don't owe. So please consider putting that book on your Christmas shopping list or your Hanukkah shopping list or whatever shopping list you have. Mm-hmm. It's really important, and this is the time frame for you to get informed and also to consider filing an abatement. You only have 30 days in January to file that abatement. After that, the door closes, and you can't file it anymore. You can't get any restitution. So it's a very, very short period of time. So get the book, get informed, learn how to read your property record card, get a copy of your property record card, and go over it. Make sure it's accurate. And again, the stuff that Patricia Quintilian and I found, another Patricia, is frightening. And so that's why the book has been written, to help you, to give you all the ammunition you need to be fairly taxed on your property. So, anyways, let's go back to our guest. Now, I don't know how it is in Arizona, but it's really it's not a good system.
Surprise.
Yeah. It's not a good system.
You get your bill and you go, and you take it from there.
Yeah, we all need to get on top of this one and eventually reform these terrible laws. But in the meantime, we have messages that I am so anxious to receive and hear from Gloria Amendola. She actually spoke with and channeled messages from Mary Magdalene for our audience, just for our audience. So anyways, we're going to bring her on in a second because, again, Gloria's been channeling Mary Magdalene for over 13 years. And if anybody knows the story here, the real story, it is Gloria Amendola. So let's get her on here. So, Gloria, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, this is a fascinating book, actually 2 books that you've written. We highly recommend them to everyone in our audience. But tell our audience, who may not have read your book yet, how did you get involved in this?
How did I get involved on my Magdalene journey and then begin to channel her at some point?
Yes, my goodness, what an adventure. How did this happen? How did this come about?
I wrote about it a little bit in Volume 1, but it kind of goes like this. I went to a church with a friend of mine who asked for some support. So I said, sure, I'll go with you. And when I did, I was shocked at the lack of the feminine, because although I was raised with Catholicism and had issues about it, I still felt the feminine in terms of some of the stories of the saints and Mother Mary and this marginal figure at that time when I was raised called Mary Magdalene. But at least they were there in some way. And in this church and in this understanding of Christianity, there was no presence of the feminine. And it really rattled my cage. So I went home. I had a background in theater. I had a few plays produced. And I decided to write a play. My son was getting older. I had more free time. And I decided to write a play about a woman in the Bible. I didn't know who it would be, but anyone, I had to tell their story. And so I went and got many books from the library. A friend came with me, and I put them all on my dining room table, and I said, okay, who is it? Which one? And it was as if a hologram opened and Mary Magdalene jumped out and said, pick me, pick me. And I thought, wow, this energy, this presence is very exuberant. And I looked through the other books, and it's like a little kid getting in your face, and she's like, pick me, please pick me. And so I finally just decided, hey, I'm going with this. I'm gonna pick her. And even at that time, in the year 2000, the only thing I knew of Mary Magdalene, which is what my religious upbringing had taught me, that she was a repentant prostitute who had been saved by Jesus. That's all I knew. And while it never resonated with me, I have to admit that's really all I knew. And so my journey began.
This is an exciting book that you have written because you have dispelled a lot of myths and a lot of bad things that were said about Mary Magdalene. So, as you did produce the play, and
yeah, the play was workshopped in New York City with a professional theater studio, and it was showcased among a group of new works, and then it was given a full staged reading in Seattle. And actually, people in Finland and Russia asked to produce it as well at the same time. So it had its moment. And then I figured, in terms of that journey, that I would turn my attention to another woman of the Bible and write another story, write another play. But that's where the thoughts of what I thought would happen and the destiny of what was before me unfolded.
So that
was 14 years ago. And when I tell you that I have gone on a journey in these last 14 years to not only understand the story of Mary Magdalene, but the story of Jesus, the story of Mother Mary, the Essenes, what I believe really went down, what I believe really was their mission, and finding support in esoteric texts and trips all over the world. And then as I went deeper in, Mary started to come in. Mary started to really make her voice known. I had a learning curve. I had a bit of time to kind of get the facts, understand the folklore, make a few trips. And then as I think my commitment grew, her voice began to come alive in me. It began to be channeled through me. And I did it in the privacy of my own home because I really wasn't comfortable sharing it with anyone. I wanted to see what is she telling me? I have a legal background. Can I flesh it out in any way? How does this make sense? Like I really needed to spend time myself with that experience, and I took the time to do that. I wasn't in a hurry. I wanted to hear as clearly as possible. And that's when the journey went deeper with Mary, and the channeling became a very integral part of the experience. So
you actually lead groups now. You actually do groups where you channel Mary Magdalene for the group.
I do. I've done about 300 Magdalene circles. They're called the Magdalene Circle, and I've done about 300 throughout the United States, a few in the UK, in France. And we learn about the mysteries. We learn about the esoteric trail of hidden clues. We study art. We study text. We do that sort of thing. So it is not primarily channeling her, but when Mary has a message and when it is appropriate in certain groups, her voice just comes through. I just feel it coming on, and those messages are delivered. And sometimes they're very personal and very person-specific of who might be in the circle, and other times they're general messages for us and the state of our world and this whole awakening. Where is it going? What is really happening? It depends. I guess Mary has a very keen sense on what a particular group needs.
That's amazing and wonderful at the same time. Now, for people to find out about your Magdalene Circles, could you tell us your website so that people will know where to go?
Sure. My website is www.gloria, Gloria-Amendola, AMENDOLA.com. you can pretty much find out a lot about me, the work I do, on my website, and you could always send me an email. We can go from there about the Magdalene circles.
Okay, great, because I know both Patricia and I want to make sure that people know how to get a hold of you, and if they want to participate, then they can do that. So right through your website, gloria-amendola.com. And also, they can buy your wonderful books, Volume 1 and 2 of Mary Magdalene, Revelations from a First Century Avatar. So you're here tonight, I think, to help us in so many ways, Gloria. And tell us, now, we've all been taught kind of the same bunch of lies. So can you help us get to the truth? Who was Mary Magdalene really?
Well, earlier you were talking to your co-host about her numerology and about the numerology of tomorrow and that sort of thing. If you study the ancient numerology of Mary Magdalene's name, H. Magdala, and how that breaks down numerically, it was understood in her day and time as gematria or gematria. Greg Braden will talk about it. Other teachers have. And it was kind of the ancient numerology. It was a way to encode a message, an idea, a sentiment. If you go back and look at Mary's number, it is 153. Total's 9. It's 153. And Margaret Starbird does a wonderful discourse about her journey with that number. The very long and short of it, you could read about Margaret's work, Goddess in the Gospels. You can Google her. You can find a whole bunch of stuff. Woman with the Alabaster Jar. This is somebody who Dan Brown relied upon her research for the Da Vinci Code. Mm-hmm. But the long and short of it is that number reduces to the goddess. So what is inferred by that is that in Mary Magdalene's time, the writers of the text in both Hebrew and Greek recognized that she was the goddess in Christianity, although at her time Christianity didn't exist. So she was more of the goddess in the tradition of Isis, Asherah, Astarte, Kuan Yin, all those presence, that archetypal presence. Mary Magdalene was considered the goddess, even above, and I don't mean to say this in any way, but just to make a point to your audience, not to belittle Mother Mary, because what a wonderful and beautiful soul, but her gematria comes out to 152, Maria, right? It was a title, but Magdalene's comes out to 153, and she is and was considered the goddess at that time. That's what she embodied and reflected to the people, and they put her essence, her aura, in code, and that never was corrupted. Although her reputation was, the number could never be corrupted. It was a secret code.
So here she is embodying the goddess, and as you write in your book, she had training in the temples of Egypt, and then she joined forces, it looks like, with Jesus. And now there's another book that's just come out most recently, which is a translation of another ancient text where they said that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married. Is that something that Mary Magdalene has confirmed with you?
She's confirmed not only that, she talks about their family life, she talks about their children, and children is plural. And if you're referring to the book by Simcha Jacobovici, I forget who his co-author is, but The Lost Gospel,
that's the book.
That was in the British Library, that particular text is also saying that they had two sons. Now, Mary goes on to say a bit further to me in her channeling, but yes, she does support all that.
Okay, that's fascinating. So, Patricia, you had a question?
I said I was curious as to what the sex of the children were, and I was very interested in, when I was reading your book, how you were talking about the different things. This young lady was quite a little spitfire, wasn't she?
She was. Magdalene had the fire.
Yeah.
She had the fire within her. She was the goddess, and the goddess, has always represented the regenerative renewal of the earth, of the womb, of the mother, of the earth. That was the tradition she was trained in. That's the understanding she came through. And in my third volume of Mary Magdalene Revelations, which has just gone live, I think, today, there's a picture of her. Thank you. There's a picture of her, and on it, her hands are placed in such a way in this picture where it looks to me like she's commanding earth energy. And it really goes, it completes the picture of her connection to the earth, which she talks quite a lot about in all three volumes. That was taken from her chapel in St. Baume, in the Provence region of southern France, and it is part of a mural, more than one mural honoring her, and it begins to give us a much deeper picture of who she really was.
So she had two sons. She was married. There was no daughter?
See, now this is the thing. In most of, in a lot of authors' work who follow this, up until now, many people have thought she just had a daughter named Sarah or Sarah
Right.
Tamar.
Yes.
But this particular text says, from the British Library, says two sons. But what I have channeled from Mary Magdalene, she says two sons and a daughter.
Oh, so three children.
That's what I've been told. And I think there's a Dead Sea Scroll scholar out there, I don't have her name handy. It might be Barbara Thiering, but I'm not positive, who also believes the texts read in such a way that you could deduce that they had three children.
Wow. Isn't this amazing? Now, I have a question for you from the chat room. Somebody's asking, is her bloodline still here? So are relatives and descendants still here on the planet?
And I will tell you unequivocally, yes.
Wow.
Somebody asked this question in the third volume, and it's Magdalene covers it. It's a more complex question about the bloodlines and the descendants, and she answers it, and it's fascinating. But yes, and
yes.
If you want to read about some of the bloodline descendants throughout time, I highly recommend a good friend of mine's books, Dr. Tim Wallace Murphy. They're nonfiction, and one is Rex Deus, and the second one is Custodians of Truth. And he begins to bring you through some of the very well-known people in history who were part of this bloodline. It's fascinating. It's incredible. I mean, I'm talking kings and queens, the mother of Richard the Lionheart, Eleanor of Aquitaine. I mean, Joan of Arc. I could go through some extraordinary connections. But are they still alive today? Yes. Have I met some? Yes.
Wow. And they know who they are? They know that they are descendants?
There's one woman in particular who I was introduced to early on in my research who claims descendancy from Joseph of Arimathea and has the documentation to prove it. She's not the only one. They're out there. They've had to remain in the shadows for 2,000 years. And
why? Why would they have to remain in the shadows?
Because they were hunted.
They were?
They were a hunt.
Do they still feel that they're being hunted today?
Well, I think it's, I'm not saying that they're not, but I think at this point there's so many, so many, that it's just a bloodline whose time has come. Christ consciousness. They were hunted, truly, by the Vatican.
Yeah, we've heard that the Vatican actually had its own assassins, so that's quite possible.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
that's a fact. And if you go in and start studying, I do pilgrimages to southern France, southwest France in particular, and you look at the Cathar history and you look at the Templar history and you begin to study what went on in history, things that we need to revisit with fresh eyes. You will see the traces of who hunted them and why.
Boy,
it's a little so scary at this point in time, because you take a look at what we've been taught over the years, what our beliefs have supposedly been, and then we start seeing cracks in the stories and the issues. And people are starting to ask questions, which is long, long overdue.
Long, long overdue. There have always been heretics throughout time, but you have to understand the Inquisition was founded on the belief that the heretics must die. And nowhere was it more painful than in the lands of southwest France. Mm-hmm. Nowhere. People who were a beautiful people, who were an enlightened people, who were Gnostic and Pythagorean and Essene and Cathar and all these wonderful Egyptian threads of understanding, this progressive people that lived in Spain and France and had a very enlightened group around them, were hunted like dogs. Why? It breaks my heart. I mean, I can't tell you how many people lost their lives in that incredible, I'll call it a witch hunt, but it was far more than that. And one of the biggest massacres in southwest France, or in southern France, is in Béziers. And the word that went out, the murderers asked, how will we know who to kill, in this rounding up of all these people? How will we know who to kill? The word came back from the Vatican, kill them all. God will know their own.
Wow, that is so horrific. And I mean, again, now we understand why they had to hide their true identities, but not so much anymore. Another question for you, Gloria, from the chat room. Somebody would like to know, with the descendants, are they all over the world, or do they live only in Europe or France?
No, they're all over the world. They're in the United States.
That's terrific.
Yeah, they're in Canada. They're pretty global.
Now, when you said you've met some of them, and do you sense anything that's different about them? Do they have the same experiences of life that you and I have, or is there something special there?
Well, the one woman in particular I met, it was very obvious how gifted she was. And that was wonderful to observe. At the same token, when I met her, which I remarked earlier was early on in my research, her understanding was way over my head at the time. It was way beyond my understanding. I have since caught up, and I have since now understand what she was trying to tell me. Gifted, yes. Leery of the world, yes. Trying to reach out to people, yes.
When you say
to
gifted,
get them,
are you talking about psychic gifts? Is that what you're talking about, that connection to the cosmos?
Yes, and more. In the way in which it was brought through. I won't, go into specifics because it might, reveal something that it's not mine to reveal. But yes, because of that insight, because of that third eye vision, being able to create from that place some pretty incredible things.
Well, this is amazing that so many descendants are living on the globe with us today, but they still feel to some degree that it's important to keep their true identity hidden. And yet I can totally understand why. I mean, when you look at the far-reaching effects of the sinister aspects of the Vatican, and who else would be in on this? Maybe other governments. Is that a possibility?
Yes.
So they're all kind of in a big conspiracy to keep the truth from us. But as Patricia, you said, this is not going to, the secrets will not stay hidden. So
not
this
anymore.
is the time. Yeah.
Well, she's absolutely right, and I've channeled that from Magdelene as well. And she says, while you see them putting forth their most hideous efforts to hold the awakening back, know that from where Yeshua and I stand, this cannot be stopped. There is more light in your world than you realize, and that you are being told. You must believe. She talks about them not being able to hold on much longer because the energies are too, they force transparency. It's just like you were talking about the Bill Cosby story. You know, entertainers and people of note got away with that kind of behavior
for years,
for a long time.
Yes.
But it can't be supported anymore. And now the floodgates are opening.
Thank goodness for that. I mean, we want the truth. And I know our audience, that's why they come to the show, because we do our best to bring guests like you, Gloria, to them that have the truth. And again, you're talking about enlightenment. You're talking about unhooking from the matrix and really seeing things for what they are. And this is part of what Magdelene and the channeling that you do is encouraging for people, right?
Exactly. As a matter of fact, when I was asking for at least one message for your audience, I was pointed to Volume 2, and I would like to read, it's about 5 or 6 paragraphs long. Can I read the passage for them?
Yes. Now, this is a message that you asked for just our audience. So all of you listening right now, this is for you personally. So go ahead.
And this is in the book, so I didn't channel it today, but I asked, is there a message? And this is what I was guided to. And ironically, it's in Chapter 3, page 33. So this is a mastery lesson to me. This is Magdelene talking, and she says, we are and always have been in contact with the star beings from other places. The Atlanteans understood their connection to the cosmos. It has been an edict passed down from the Galactic Federation. This was part of the mission Yeshua and I accepted. Not much is known about this undertaking, but in due time, its details will be revealed. These celestial impulses on the earth had to be kept alive. They had to be oversold. These signals had to be coursed throughout far and distant lands. If humans could integrate this impulse in the collective mind, then the great destiny of your world soul would finally mature or ascend. The difference here has always been that in physicality, with the trappings of dense matter, thoughts can easily get stuck in the fear state of survival. It has to do with the birth canal experience as a primal pathway for birth. It is yet another paradox in the earth experience. Yeshua and I work together to seed the light from the stars on key points on the earth. My beloved dedicated his life to teaching people how to break free from their limitations so they could receive this legacy of light transmission. Let me repeat that one sentence. My beloved dedicated his life to teaching people how to break free from their limitations so they could receive this legacy of light transmission. We also placed our wisdom teachings in the earth. So at this time, you could retrieve our teachings, which were the teachings of the ancient ones. This is why you have been called to these potent points of energy on the earth, to retrieve what was preserved for you.
That's fabulous.
Very powerful
Gloria,
message.
Definitely. So there's much to be said about crystals and the crystals absorbing and keeping information and being informative for us. Do you feel that there is much of what they put together are in crystals that are in the earth now that as they're brought forth will give us more of the story?
Well, I do believe that the crystals are the record keepers, so whether they put them in there or they were working with starlight and the blood, human blood, and the earth, all as a mirror of each other, that whether they put it into the crystals or they perform the rituals at key sacred points on the earth, points of extended life force,
right,
sacred sites, the crystals would naturally record that because it's, number one, it's happening, but number two, from the vibration in which it occurred, it would be stored and it would be released at the right time or perceived at the right time when our consciousness could vibrate in resonance with that frequency, correct?
Yes.
Yes, that makes great
sense.
So
therefore, the crystals would always be the record keepers of that and would just naturally know when someone is communing on that level, on that vibrational level, then the crystals are there. The information is free flow because it's a vibrational match. So that's the part, at least one of the parts I think the crystals did play in this understanding.
What made them go
ahead.
to France? Yeah, I was curious as to why they went to France when they were being forced.
Well, France was an outpost, right? I mean, when they left, they were being hunted, right? And there was much more to it than that, but let's take it one step at a time. In southern France, in the Mediterranean, there was a well-known Essene community. There were Essene communities, plural. There was a well-known network of their people. They were also Gnostic. They were also Pythagorean, meaning they were students of Pythagoras and those teachings. It was like Berkeley, California. It was a cool place to be. It was progressive. It was enlightened. Now they came through the Essene community, and it was a network that helped each other along the way. Joseph of Arimathea, who was the uncle, some say great uncle of Jesus, was a very wealthy, highly respected tin merchant who was known to have traveled to southwest Britain to acquire the tin in the mines there in Cornwall, because the Roman Empire needed this. It was an important metal, and they needed it for very practical reasons. So this idea that the people were very stationary, no, people were traveling the globe. We know that in many cultures. And so the idea that they would know that in a scene, a welcoming, a community that could support them, that could hide them, that could feed them, clothe them, and do whatever it took to help them begin to move forward, for some reason that was a destination point, southern France.
Interesting. I was in reading what you had to say, and I'm finding it very fascinating that such a strong woman at that point in time, when women were basically told to hush and stay out of the limelight, and that has happened again, but we are now starting to see the women emerge again to step into their light and take their power.
Well, it's time. I mean, in 2009, the Dalai Lama said, "Western women will save the world."
Oh, really?
The Dalai Lama said that. Yes, in 2009, I think it was at a women's summit in Vancouver. Not 100% on that, but he clearly said, if you Google it, you'll find it, Western women will save the world. And what he said recently, it might have been in the last year, he said that if the next Buddha needs to be a woman, then the next Buddha will be a woman.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
Well,
love it.
When we went into 2000, it started to become the time of the woman. And now we're in 2014. As we progress forward, as we've noted since 2000, women are becoming stronger. They're taking more political places. They're doing more. They're out in front. They're not staying home in the kitchen. They've become more involved, and why not?
Well, they have to, because the world is too imbalanced, and what we've brought ourselves to is severe climate change, and our sustainability environmentally is being deeply challenged. And the woman must rise up, that feminine spirit must rise up to reunite balance, to cry out for sanity, because the masculine, not meshed with its feminine in its more natural state, the state of matter and the nature of our reality, has always been masculine and feminine. There's always been a blend. And when this schism happened, it threw our world into imbalance. And after a few millennia of imbalance, you see where we are. We are in a very, as beautiful as life can sometimes be in America, as privileged as we might be, and the abundance that we might have access to, the shadow side is on a sustainability level, we're in deep trouble. And it is the feminine that will help balance out and bring sanity back into the equation.
So all of us need to step forward, and this is men included, because we're both male, we're all male and female. And so it's important to balance that within ourselves. But most importantly, I think, because when I think of the male energy and how things have gotten so out of balance here in the world today over so many thousands of years, the male energy to me is all about appetites. And the female energy is beautiful and goddess-like and all of these wonderful things as a way of tempering those appetites and directing that appetite energy in a more constructive way. So that's kind of how I see, in a very simplistic form, the energies that we're dealing with today. And these appetites are literally destroying us. They are eating up the planet. And we have a pointed gun in our head from so many different places now, not just climate. But we've got Fukushima, which is a near extinction event, and a lot of other things, the oil spills and things like that have destroyed the ecology and the ocean in certain areas, and certainly in all of it. But it is so important, I think, for women to step up and for men to honor their feminine side. So it's all of us. But women, I agree with you. Women can change this, but we've got to step up to do it.
Oh, definitely.
And the men have to realize, and I always say that not many men have showed up on the pathway yet, but the ones that do are pretty spectacular. And men need to realize that the classic Grail quest of the knight, seeking the Grail, was always to reunite with the feminine. That is the essence of the Grail quest, because a man cannot ascend, he cannot do the great work, alchemy, we'll talk about alchemy, without the feminine. That is known. So when they were questing for the Grail, they were trying to purify themselves so that they could reunite with the goddess, with that energy, with that understanding.
That's the first time that I'm hearing this. This is great stuff.
Yeah,
Boy,
it is
I love
great
it. It is. So we're going to continue this conversation in a minute. We're going to take a quick commercial break and going to come back and keep talking about these things. This is an amazing conversation, Gloria. Thank you so much. So everybody stay tuned. We will be right back.
This is Veronique Raskin, founder of the Organic Wine Company. As one of the pioneers of the organic wine movement, since 1980 I have brought you the very best and most authentic organic wines directly to your table. I work with small family estates who grow certified organic grapes and produce exceptional wines. You can purchase our wines individually from our website at theorganicwinecompany.com or join one of our wine clubs. Our organic wines are perfect for you and for your family as gifts for friends and relatives, and they are simply spectacular for the holidays. Visit us at theorganicwinecompany.com to enjoy the very best organic wines conveniently delivered to your door. I am Veronique Raskin, passionate about my mission. I offer to you vegan, organic, and biodynamic wines, wines made by people of the heart, wines with a heart. Au revoir. Call us at 1-888-ECO-WINE.
Your property tax bill. Have you seen it lately? It's frightening. Your property taxes are going up while your home value is going down. It's time to fight back and win. For the real truth about the property tax system, get attorney Pat Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Attorney Quintilian answers all your questions and gives you the facts you need to fight a property tax bill that is spiraling out of control. You'll also read about what happens to property owners who don't check their property records, only to find out too late they're taxed on square footage, fixtures, and even buildings that they don't own. Is this happening to you? Learn your rights. Buy attorney Pat Quintilian's book today. Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Available on Amazon.com.
Are you ready for a new experience of freedom and powerful connection? Would you like a positive, effortless change in your life? Then come to CosmicFusion.com, where we offer the most advanced energy clearing and expansion techniques in the world, with a quantum vortex energy to activate your divine blueprint and life's purpose. When your soul leads the way with cosmic fusion and quantum vortex energy, you can break clear of past difficulties and blocks with the power of the Source. With Cosmic Fusion, the Source energy does the work for you. It's easy and effortless. Listen to our free meditation right from our Cosmic Fusion website, the Cosmic Code Meditation. Sign up for one of our interactive webinars today. Come to Cosmic Fusion, www.KOSMICfusion.com, to experience an effortless awakening and transformation. Are you ready for an upgrade? Are you ready for a new experience of living in the fifth dimensional magic and powerful connection? Then visit CosmicFusion.com today. CosmicFusion.com.
Patricia Baker, and I'm here with my guest co-host, Patricia Kirkman, and our wonderful guest for the evening, Gloria Amendola, who has written 3 books now on Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene Revelations from a First Century Avatar, Volumes 1, 2, and 3 now. Right, Gloria? The third one just came out
Correct.
today?
The trilogy was born.
Yeah, that is terrific. Congratulations. This is really good news, because this is, now we're talking right before the break about a subject that I'm fascinated with, which is the Holy Grail. And you just revealed a major piece of information here about when men were questing for the Holy Grail, what this was really about.
Right. The Grail has been many things throughout time, and Magdelene does talk about this in Volume 3 even more. I am working on a book on the Holy Grail because it's such an elusive subject. But in the period of the Middle Ages, if you will, when the Grail quest stories were seeded into our consciousness, one of the people behind it, actually, I'll just keep it simple. One of the people behind it, I believe, was a bloodline descendant who patronized the writer who would write these wonderful Percival stories and seed this idea of searching for the Holy Grail in a way that would be appropriate for the time. And the people behind this always understood the great work. They always understood the teachings that came out of ancient Egypt. We'll at least go back as far as ancient Egypt. And they always understood that the great work was to balance the male and the female energy within you. Even in some of the Gnostic Gospels that were found in Nag Hammadi, Jesus talks about sending out his male disciples and his female, and he does talk about making Mary male. But what they don't often quote is that he said to his male disciples, "We will make you female," and it's all a veiled reference to this alchemical work, this blending, this fusing of our consciousness, both male and female, which was what was seeded in the Grail stories that so many of us are familiar with.
So this is great stuff. I'm just loving what you're saying, but I'm trying to understand then for men, it's one type of quest. But what is it for women? What are we supposed to be doing as women in this quest?
Well, I will tell you what, actually that's a great question. I was in England in 2011. I was leading a tour through England into Scotland. And in Nottingham, we stopped and we had a day with someone who claimed to be from the Priory of Sion. Now, some people say it exists, it doesn't exist, so that's a whole big ball of wax there. But if we just take it in a simple way and say that this man was representing the Priory, that question was asked. And what he said, and he was an alchemist himself, and what he said was that men, when they were going to create the Philosopher's Stone, would always have to have a woman present. You know, Nicholas Flamel had his wife present when he allegedly produced the Philosopher's Stone. Yes. So one of the women on tour says, well, what about women? What do they need in the process? Do they need a man? And he said, no, women can do this all by themselves.
See? No wonder they wanted to keep this hidden.
Exactly.
We've known it for years.
Gosh.
Right.
Well, that is truly a revelation.
It is a revelation. And I think that's why women are leading the way now, because women are more connected to their heart. And it's not just the heart of love and compassion, although that is critically important, but the heart has a brain, and it's intelligence. Magdelene talks a lot about living by heart-based intelligence now. So it's extremely intelligent consciousness. And men, given their programming, this is not to diss them in any way, but given their programming and they were told to be logical at some point and to be in their minds, they're more trapped in matter. They're more trapped in logical thinking, and that hampers their ability to acquiesce to the heart. It makes it more difficult because of the way their brains are wired. It doesn't mean it's impossible.
No, that makes sense. It makes perfect sense. So, again, it brings me back to the question for women, what can we do to move past our fear and to reconnect with the goddess energy in such a way that we manifest more light on the planet? What can we do? I mean, will Magdelene touch each and every one of us if we ask her to help us on this journey?
She does. Somebody asked that question, how do I get to know you more fully? How do I have a direct experience with you? And she's very direct on what she says about that. But while we were on break, I said, okay, Magdelene, what's the next message? And she referred me to Volume 1, and I'd like to read a few of the paragraphs because it does answer something, and I think it might even address some of the feelings some of the people in the audience are having, like, wow, this sounds like it's too hard. Can I do this? Am I capable? How do I do this? That sort of thing. And that's where she led me to. So the question was, can anyone learn the mysteries? And she answers, anyone can learn the mysteries, but will they? You must have a will and determination, and your heart must be purified along the way. That is the Grail path. But the mysteries are available to each and every one of you as your birthright here on earth. Never forget that. Yet you must be ready to ride rushing rivers of emotions embedded in your psyche, cross bridges into the most dreaded unknown, climb jagged mountains that rise up from within you, and sail the vast oceans of the memory of all. If you are willing to do that and more, the mysteries will be revealed to you. And she goes on to say, remember, you are always creating your reality, whether consciously or not. You are always participating in your reality, whether consciously or not. It is all your choice. So if you want to learn what I learned and do what I did, this is the way in which it was done. This is the process in general terms. It requires a passion for truth. It requires a heart that knows love and forgiveness. And it requires a determination to go the distance. Sometimes you don't start out with all these attributes in place. You learn by your initiations, and you pick up these qualities along the way. But you must have a burning desire to experience the light beyond the darkness.
And there you have it. I mean, that's a tall order, yet it's not insurmountable. These are things that we can do if we make this a priority.
Yes, and what she's saying is, in terms of, to answer your question more specifically about women and what we do, she's saying operate from the heart, show love, show forgiveness, for that's the doorway in. She's said that to me for 14 years. And she presented situations in my life when I didn't know love and I didn't know forgiveness to teach me. And they weren't easy lessons. But what she's saying is you don't have to have a lot of money. You don't have to have a PhD. You just have to have a desire for the truth and a willingness to go the distance and believe. And we as women generally seem to be able to have faith.
Yes.
Just a faith and a belief in right action and in what we are doing, and yet forgive along the way. So I think what she's saying is very hopeful. If people in your audience are feeling, God, I'll never do this, I'll never match up, I'll never be able to do this, basically what she's saying is get out of your own way, be in love, be in forgiveness, and know that your heart is much more brilliant than you ever imagined, and just stay focused on the heart. And the ways in which you need to participate will just unfold.
Well, that's a wonderful message, and again, I think it's an important one for everybody to hear, but especially women today in this part of the world, that we can accomplish these goals. We can get there. And I think part of it is throwing off our old programming that emotion is no good and listening to the heart is a bad path. And it's, a lot of this programming that's been going on for centuries, literally centuries, telling women they're second rate, and everything that comes with being a woman is second rate. So it's being able to throw that away at the time.
And it hasn't even been centuries, it's been millennia. If you study history.
Thank you. Yes, that's true.
And that's a lot of programming to get rid of. But the good news is we can. We live in a very accelerated time, and as your co-host said before, there is an energy that is supporting our ascension. There is an energy that is supporting our awakening. And so what might have been difficult 50 years ago or 25 years ago, or even 10. Now that transition, that understanding, that transparency can happen in 2 weeks.
Well, we are ready.
Oh, definitely. Do you find that with women taking and stepping up to the, shall we say, stepping up to the plate, that that's also the ability to allow men to also step down from where they thought they were supposed to be, where we have Mr. Moms now, men that are willing to take on the opposite role, which is giving them a sensitivity that has long been forgotten by many men.
I agree, and I think that's a part of the balancing that's so important for men to do.
It is.
If men can be in touch with their sensitivity, if they can raise the children, directly, not, for an hour a day, but spend some real time understanding what it is to nurture and to receive in return and to forgive, and to not be so driven by the outer, but to know that the heart is what's important. The heart can move us to a whole new understanding. I think that's an integral understanding, and I applaud the men that do that, because what they're doing is stepping out of their ego and saying, I'm going to take a break from, this is how much I earn and this is what I do and therefore this is who I am, and I'm going to break it all down, and I'm just going to experience this other side of life.
We've got to get away from being a title to become a person.
It's not who we are.
No, I see the difference when I look at fathers taking their youngsters on a daily outing, where you never saw that before. It was either the family went or the mother did it.
Right. And I think the men that are doing that are benefiting by that experience.
Oh, definitely. And it's allowing the woman to become an equal partner with them, if not above and beyond, shall we say. But there's a lot of lessons that have to be caught up on.
There are. There's a lot of leadership roles that I think we as women have been taught we can't occupy. And I know in the corporate world and other places things have changed somewhat. But even in the family, I mean, it's still, I think men are beginning to learn that wearing the crown gets heavy. And sometimes it's important to step down and be in a different position with their wives or their partners. And it's a different position for women, too, to be leaders. It's important for
and I'm going to circle this back to the Jesus Mary Magdalene story, and I'm going to give you a very simple example that would support that. For most of us that were raised Catholic, our central image of our religion was Jesus, a dead man on a cross, right?
Yeah.
That's what we saw. When we went to church, we saw a dead man on the cross, and our focus in our religious rituals was around that experience, suffering, pain, and there was even some subliminal message to me. Here's what happens when you get out of line. Yeah, we'll deify you maybe later on. Maybe we'll canonize you and make you a saint. But if you study the lives of saints, you will learn how much they were butchered in their own time before perhaps, hundreds of years later they were canonized. Now, that's one image, and so put it off to the side. There's a beautiful image of Jesus and Mary Magdalene in a church in Derveg, Scotland. If you Google that online, you will find the most beautiful image, and the image was created in the stained glass window in the early 1900s. The donor who paid for the window was anonymous, remains anonymous, and it's the most beautiful window of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, where Magdalene looks pregnant, where their right hands are joined in the sign of the nuptials, and the way Jesus' hair is parted, he was a Nazarene. He wasn't Jesus of Nazareth. He was Jesus the Nazarene, a big difference. And it shows, and it clearly denotes who these people were by the scripture below it. Now, I'm not the originator of this idea. This is something Margaret Starbird always said. When I was in her presence, she said it even more, and I agree with it. If that was our model of Christianity for 2,000 years, where we saw male and female hand in hand, equals, in beauty, in harmony, what a different model of leadership and partnership that would have shown us.
Oh, definitely. My goodness.
Totally different. Yes.
And you said that was in Scotland. What city?
It's in a church in Derveg, Dervaig, Scotland, and it's contemporary. It was commissioned in that church, I believe, in around 1905, give or take. And if you Google Jesus, Mary Magdalene, window, Derveg, Scotland, it will clearly come up. It is a beautiful image.
I'll definitely take a look at that.
Oh, yes. We're all going to go look at that. It sounds wonderful. And you're right. I mean, tonight you're helping us blaze new trails and change our perception about our position in all of this. I mean, I've had so many people, and I know you have too, Patricia, come here and talk to us about wanting to be in the stream of enlightenment and feeling very frustrated that they're not there.
Exactly.
So I hear what the message is from the Magdalene. I mean, she's talking about clearing up emotional stuff. I mean, emotions are not bad. It's just that we often end up carrying them around rather than working with them. So I understand the power of that, and it's not the easiest thing to do because it's one of those things that we're taught early on that emotions are worthless. But yet they're very powerful, and they can certainly stand in the way of our own enlightenment if we don't walk with them and feel them all the way through. So,
well, in the mystery schools in ancient Egypt, let's just take that for one example, you had a chakra system based in the temples, and you would go, those who were lucky enough to study in the temples would go to one particular temple where issues relating to the root chakra, fear of survival, all those foundation, all those things that come up around the first chakra were given as initiations and lessons. If you passed that, you went to the next temple, let's say along the Nile, and the second chakra issues were taught, and creativity, emotion. But there again, feelings are fine. Emotions tend to be beliefs that form around feelings over time. A little bit different. And, you begin to see the system of where they understood purifying the self by going through this initiatory pathway, which is what Jesus was about, too, because he was there. He was in Egypt. He traveled all over the world. He was with the Druids. He was in Cornwall. The legends of Jesus in Cornwall with Joseph of Arimathea are very strong there. And, many people believe in the Far East, India. He had a multitude of disciplines that he was able to put together in his understanding as well. And I don't know. I just find this all incredible that all of this was going on, and yet we have such a limited understanding. But they were working through their initiations. In the third volume, Magdelene talks about real human emotion, real conflict that they had. So this is no airy-fairy stuff. And she says, I know you think me a master. But this is how I felt, and I make no apologies for my feelings, for this was my truth. In other words, she owns her feelings about situations and some of the deck of cards they were dealt, but she learns that purifying those thoughts and feelings at some point had to happen in order for them to do their mission on Earth.
And they went their separate ways. So the Magdalene went to France, and Jesus went to other places, the Orient or other places in the world. Did they ever reconnect in life?
Well, according to her, she answers that in Volume 3. And while I do not want to give the details, because you really have to read what she says,
read the
it is wild. But yes, they do connect. And what she has to say is it challenged me a little bit to bring it through and to put it out there, but I did, because it's very interesting material, but it really, in the scheme of things, it makes sense.
Well, now we've got to get Volume 3, Gloria. There's no way around it.
No question
and this
about
is
it.
very, very exciting information. This is great. Now, when you channel Mary Magdalene, how does it feel for you? Do you feel a totally different energy coming through you or overtaking you? And do you stay in your body or do you go elsewhere? How does this happen?
Well, it's interesting you ask, because I've channeled, let me just give a little backstory here. I've channeled 27 recorded messages of Rata, who I later figured out was Edgar Cayce's Atlantean Egyptian aspect. And that was a very powerful energy where I had to be put into a deep state of relaxation and kind of go out of my body or clear as much as I could so this big energy could come through, and it was one whole experience. I'm channeling Thomas Jefferson, I have for about the last year, and I'm just starting to understand Jefferson and the very measured man that he was, and get his rhythm, get his vibe. With Mary Magdalene, it's changed. When I first began to feel her enter into my house, and then where I'd have a good friend or two over, and they'd literally see her step into me, the way they explained it, I could feel the frequency change, and I could literally feel that energy step in, if you will. Now, because my vibration has changed so much, over 14 years, it's more of a beautiful flow of energy. It's kind of like I just easily, with no resistance now, it wasn't always that way, I just kind of get rid of myself in some way. I can't even describe the process. Just kind of, it gets quiet, it subsides. And when she comes through, it's a frequency I know in my being. It gives me chills, and I know it's her. And it's a much easier process now because she's helped me purify so much over the last 14 years that it's a much smoother ride.
Do you find the body is physically drained after you have an instance of channeling?
Not anymore. In the beginning I did. Obviously the frequency difference was much bigger. And so I would be able to kind of bring that and hold that and get what was needed. And then because my vibration was in a different place, and when it was over, I'd have to go to bed. I'd be tired. But now, no. Now it's really, it feels good, and it's very energizing. Very different experience. But it took a while for that, but it's there now.
I have a question for you, Gloria, in terms of Magdalene messages and also just your own perception today. It just seems like a lot of women are facing health issues, major health issues, and which makes it quite a trial by fire in terms of facing this choice of enlightenment. But a lot of women I know are really fighting for their lives, for their health today. Do you or does Magdalene have any messages about this and why it's happening?
Well, I'll keep it simple because I could say many things. There's a lot of backstory and how this information came to be, how I learned some on my own, how I was guided, what Magdalene said, and so on and so forth. If I don't tell that whole backstory, I will say one of the most important components that we're ingesting right now that is affecting our health is water. Oh. And if we were to drink spring water and purify our bodies, just that act alone could heal could heal many issues that women are facing. You have to understand, so many people are drinking bottled water these days in plastic, right?
Yeah.
And we know that the plastics leach chemicals into the water.
Right.
And we know that they're severe hormone disruptors. Severe.
Yeah, that's true.
And so with everybody ingesting that, that's part of it. That's a big part of it because water is the key to life. If we didn't have it like air, we'd die.
Right.
We would die. So one of the major things, in trying to do something good for ourselves, we have to realize you really have to go the distance with how you consume water because the hormones are being so extremely disrupted that is the beginning of a real problem for women, along with inflammation.
Mhm. That makes sense. So drinking pure water is extremely important.
What type of water would you suggest?
Well, and I learned this through seeking the Magdalene in France and being exposed to so many beautiful waters, spring waters, and where I go in southwest France in Alet-les-Bains, they actually bottle the water and it's distributed throughout France, is my understanding. And so we go right to the source and we drink it. And I began to see and understand that there was a life force. It wasn't just that this water had minerals and was good for me and it would clean me out, but that it had an energy, a kick, a life force. And I began to follow that path and I began to understand the power of spring water. So when I came back to Connecticut, I said, I just can't do this anymore. I can't go back to regular water. I need the bump up. I need the water that has life force in it, that has energy. And long story short, you can go to a website called findaspring.com. And it's a simple and beautiful website. It gives you springs throughout the United States. So you can Google where you are, where you need to be, and you can get spring water all over the place. And it runs.
How cool is that? I have never heard of this before. How fascinating.
It's called findaspring.com, and there is water. There is free water running everywhere on the earth, and they tend to. All the springs have to be tested. They'll tell you. I believe they'll tell you the breakdown of the spring. The different minerals or so forth, and of course, the more local the water is that you drink, the better it is for you because it's acclimated to your body system.
Mm-hmm. And to the vibration of the land.
A machine that generates the water. It supposedly purifies it and cleans it and whatever. I think it runs a couple $1,000. That is being touted in many places. But there again, I don't know. You're putting regular water into it to make it become something else. So.
Yeah, those ionizers really aren't worth most of them aren't worth the money. You could take water and get a simple $36 structuring device online and run it through a couple of bottles and you'll have a potent water. You can collect spring water. You can do different things like that, but most women should be staying away from water and plastic. You got to be in glass. And so when you're talking about health challenges, that's something that's so simple, so everyday is the water we consume.
That's right. It is true. And that's, again, one of the most important things that we do every day or we don't do. How many people don't drink enough water? They're going to other things, soda or something else that's not really hydrating their system. So it is really important. I'm glad you brought that up. That's good. Good for everybody to hear.
There's another thing, too, that women can do to support their physical health. And, again, it's inexpensive. And it's mostly free, and I don't know if your listeners have heard of this, but there's a thing called earthing. And there's a great book out there if you Google earthing and Google Clint Ober, Clintober. He was a very powerful, an entrepreneur in the cable industry in its infancy, and he made a boatload of money. And yet he was always in physical pain. And finally he kind of gave it all up, and he went in search of what could help him because he had all the money in the world, and he couldn't get relief from his pain. And what he found, very long story short, what he found, and you can read this on their website, you can watch the movie, you can read the book, it's phenomenal information. They found that when people go barefoot and connect to the earth by walking on it, it's nothing easier than that, the earth gives off free electrons, and those free electrons are intelligent energy that know right where to go to the body to reduce inflammation and strengthen immune system. And that's where, inflammation is really the underpinning of most chronic diseases in a way.
Yes.
And so again, you can Google this stuff, warmer climates, warmer seasons, whatever. You can walk on the earth. And if you walk, did you ever walk on the ocean in the summer and by the end of the day you feel phenomenal? Did you ever hike in the woods and go, walk barefoot in the grass and feel renewed? Not only are the peer-reviewed studies supporting this, you can actually buy a grounding mat, which I use when I'm at my computer channeling, writing, creating books, and so forth. I use an earthing mat, and I put it under my feet, and it connects to the grounding wire in my house, and it is directly connected to the earth energy. And so if you have to sit at your computer, which sometimes I have to do for 6-8 hours a day to finish a book, I'm getting earth energy, and I'll tell you I feel phenomenal as opposed to feeling all stiffed up by sitting there.
What a remarkable change that is from just adding one thing to your routine. And so, that's something we should all look up and read about. And I heard there were even sandals somebody made. There's shoes, there's grounding sheets, there's a lot of different products on their website that you can use. But the thing I like about the earthing mat is that it's very portable. We're all at our computers, most of us, and it's relatively inexpensive. It's like $59. That's a bargain.
For what it can do for you, it's extraordinary. And I see the difference when I finish a book. Sometimes by the end of it, I'm a little shot, and I need to, get out and walk or get myself moving, do a couple of days of vigorous movement and exercise to get back into the flow. When I use the earthing mat now, and I'm doing that, by the end of the day, I'm like ready to go. I'm feeling great, and so I'm giving myself that advantage. So when you asked about women, stepping up and yet experiencing health challenges, we're talking water, we're talking about the earth energy, and we're talking about an earthing mat. I mean, most of it's free. It requires a little effort, but I'm telling you, you will feel a world of difference, and it will support light body. So it supports the higher frequencies, which is what you want. Just as much as you nourish physical body, you have to nourish your light body.
You do. That's right. You can't ignore
phenomenal.
that. Yeah, that's terrific. Well, we've got a couple more questions here for you from the chat room. Everybody is fascinated, Gloria, by the fact that there are descendants of this bloodline here on the planet. That's what they're all talking about in the chat room right now. So
good.
Here's another question. They want to know how did the descendants know their descendants?
Well, there's some families who have kept very good records and very good genealogies. And in private, they are taught who they are.
So it's
but not in a boastful way, but in a way
that Mom and Dad might just sit them down and say, "We want you to know where you come from, and you have to."
Well, in the Rex is tradition from the high priest families from Jerusalem when they had to go underground, when the temple in Jerusalem was going to be sacked by the Romans in around 68 A.D., give or take. They developed a code. They developed an MO. They developed a way in which they would preserve this understanding of a spiritual lineage, a bloodline lineage. And what they would do is they would take the most gifted of their generation, like Mother Mary was a temple child, just like Jesus. She was the gifted one in her generation. And they would later on, when, mystery schools and temples kind of went by the wayside, in one of the MO of a Rex Deus family was to go to a region and take on the religion of the area. So in other words, blend in. Mm-hmm. But in their private moments, in the privacy of their own home, they would make sure at least one child knew to carry on the secrets, who they were, where they came from, and what their mission was. They were guardians of the Grail. What do you do with that? They had a direct responsibility to preserve and to become enlightened, if you will, to preserve that knowledge. And so it was handed down in secrecy. And the more they became hunted, the more they became persecuted, the more the Vatican went after the descendants. They were called the line where there were lines other than the Jesus line, but the line around Jesus and Mary Magdalene was called the Despacini, and they were brutally hunted. So they had to go deeper and deeper in secret, but make no mistake, in their sacred and secret rituals, this information was passed down for 2,000 years.
Amazing.
So families might choose one child and pass the information on to that child. Because look, in every family or in some families, there's always one bad egg. So, clearly they didn't want to pass the information on if somebody was unstable in the family, because it could endanger everybody.
Exactly. If their lineage was found out, off with your head. This was a terrible thing that went on. That's why you have to read Tim Wallace-Murphy's books on Rex Deus and Custodians of Truth, because he will give you, names of people in history, and I'm talking about royals, kings and queens who claimed descendancy from the Magdelene. There was a king in France. I don't have my notes in front of me, so I don't remember if he was, I don't even want to guess at his name. But anyway, he claimed he was a king in France. He claimed descendancy from Mary Magdalene. There's a place in St. Baume where it's called Le Chemin de Roi, where it is said that the kings, when they were coronated, would scale up to her cave and pay homage to the Magdalene, because they knew she was the matriarch of their family. There have been wars fought over these things. Some of the key players in history, especially European history, were bloodline. But let's look at our own American history in George Washington.
Yeah. Is this connected?
Was he connected to the bloodline?
Yeah.
It's an interesting story that cycles into America.
But, okay, so you're talking about kings and queens. You're talking about royalty in Europe. You're talking about George Washington here, the first president of our United States. Are there any people who just are descendants and blend in like Joe the plumber, or, are there people that are just living very ordinary lives that are descendants?
Well, in my opinion, there's many descendants, and yes, because the real masters are often the very quiet ones.
Mhm. This is so fascinating. Oh my goodness, Gloria. This is exciting. Everything we're talking about tonight. It's great.
It is. It's kind of like follow the dots. You're trying to figure out who belongs to who and where.
Yeah. I know. It's I've been obsessed isn't quite the right word, but I guess sometimes someone in my family would probably say, that's the right word. It's been a burning desire to try to put these pieces together, and while I will say I certainly do not have them all put together, I have the big picture enough in place where it makes total sense to me. And I've met so many gifted people along the way who've spent 30 years of their life just on one aspect of the story. And what am I able to do? I'm able to sit down with them, have a conversation, perhaps read their book, get to know them, and take their 30 years of experience on this one area and put it into place, and on and so on. Who the universe has put on my path has been extraordinary. And that's not, and the reason I say that is because as I deliver these possibilities, this information, this research, all of this combined understanding, what I really want your audience to understand is that Yeshua, Jesus, Mary Magdalene, these scenes, it was always for everyone to get this information. So when we talk about bloodline, we're not trying to talk about a bunch of privileged punks who maybe abuse their power. We're talking about gifted people spiritually who took an oath of mission, who would hold those memories in their blood alive and pass them on from generation to generation to grow Christ consciousness on the earth. And that all people have a pineal gland. All people have the same basic interior biology. And enlightenment is our spiritual lineage for every single one of us. So it doesn't mean somebody from the bloodline was necessarily as special. They were just given some information that if they were doing their job, they had to preserve and protect and teach so that everyone gets it, because this ascension that we're in right now, this awakening is collective.
It is, yes, yes. Wow. Well, you are amazing, Gloria. You are definitely, I wouldn't call you obsessed. I would say you're on purpose. This is
thank you.
Great purpose that you have taken on and that you are bringing forth for all of us to learn so much of the truth. And I can't thank you enough for being on the show tonight. This has been
it's been my
wonderful show.
Absolutely fabulous. I couldn't put the book down. It was that good.
Thank you.
Yes, so unfortunately we've come to the end of our time together, but I would love to have you come back and talk about Volume 3. But for everybody out there right now, you guys can all go and get these books. It's Mary Magdalene, Revelations from a First Century Avatar, Volumes 1, 2, and now Volume 3, and it is written very well by Gloria Amendola. And again, your website is gloria-amendola.com, right?
Correct. Thank you so much.
So people can read about you there, read about your books. They can also find out about your Magdalene circles in case they're nearby and they would like to take part. But this has been so enlightening, Gloria. Just a wonderful conversation with you this evening. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed it. We'll have to do it again.
We've got to. This is such important stuff.
Yes, so definitely.
We will look forward to talking to you again, Gloria. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for listening to this very exciting show. We will have another great guest on next week, so be sure to tune in. And be safe, everybody. Enjoy whatever you're doing in your life and make it your purpose to enjoy what you're doing. And we will be talking with you, yes, next week. So good night, everybody. Good night, Gloria. Good night, Patricia.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another radio adventure with Supernatural